Hello and welcome to this short webinar. This is designed for anyone who is a complete beginner to tendering. One of the main questions I get asked a lot is, what do I need to start tendering? So this is the whole purpose why I've created this short webinar. If you're looking to start tendering but you're not sure where to start or what you need, I'm going to cover the 7 key things and steps that you need in order to start tendering. So let's get into it. So the 7 things we're going to cover today are the central digital platform. So I'll cover what that is and what you need for that. The main policies that you will be asked for, case studies and evidence, they're really important. Understanding the tendering process, accreditations and social value. So let's start with the first one, central digital platform. So this was a recent change due to the Procurement Act 2023. It is now in place, it has been implemented. So if you are looking to start tendering, you will need to have this in place. It requires all bidders to register on the central digital platform. You'll be issued with a PPON number, which will be unique to you and your company, and you will need to reference it in your tenders. So without this number, your bid will be non-compliant. This is a pass-fail requirement, so if you want to start tendering, make sure that you have this in place. It's free to do and it's available from the findatender.gov website. So if you're in the UK, make sure you register on there. Make sure you make a note of this PPON number. The registration is just essentially your basic company information. So it's nothing too complicated. Number 2 is policies. They're often requested on tenders and it is something that will come up at some point, so it's best to have it ready now. Make sure you have clear and up-to-date policies. So the most common policies that come up on tenders that I've seen are health and safety, quality management, environmental, corporate social responsibility, and equality and diversity. These are commonly requested, and these policies essentially show that you run your business responsibly. So make sure you have those developed and ready in your library if you want to start tendering. Case studies and evidence, number 3. Make sure you prepare short case studies, and these should include client details, the scope of the project, the outcome, dates, and measurable results or statistics. So case studies are a great way of evidencing how you perform and how you deliver your services. And make sure you back up your claims with evidence. So your evidence will be required in tenders and they will gain you those extra marks. So make sure you have things like testimonials, performance data, photos or certificates. Evidence, especially statistics, can back up your claims, and that could be things like your years of experience, number of contracts delivered, number of clients, things like that. Number 4, understand the tendering process. You need to know the steps of how tendering works. In order to start tendering, it just makes things a lot easier because tendering can be quite complex and overwhelming and confusing. So make sure you know how tendering works and what the documents mean to develop a bespoke strategy for your business targets. This includes things like understanding each step, including the first step, which is issue of the tender. And you can think of that like an advert so the buyer will issue the tender, the advert, to gather interest from potential suppliers. Other key steps include clarifications, submission, evaluation, award, and contract management. Understanding the documents and what the tender is being scored is also really, really important. You need to be aware of that. It will let you build a tailored bidding strategy. And this is all covered in phase one of my course, including all the steps of tendering and what the documents mean. So if you are looking to start tendering, I would definitely recommend that you get familiar with the process and know exactly how it all works. Number five, accreditations. So this will depend on your industry. So definitely check before you start tendering, um, the accreditations that are specific to your industry of work. So a simple online check through research will do. This will give you sort of an overview of what accreditations you might need. So if you're in construction, for example, you probably need to have something like CHAS or construction line or safe contractor. If your work requires a lot of health and safety considerations, then ISO 45001 or CHAS will be required. And for quality related works, ISO 9001 is very commonly asked for on tenders. So make sure you have those in place because there will often be pass-fail requirements mandatory as part of the tender. And if you don't have them, you won't qualify for the rest of the tender. So make sure you look into what accreditations you might need. They don't always come up, but very often they do. And when they do, they usually pass-fail. For any care services, for example, to deliver regulated activities, you would need a CQC registration and usually a rating of good or above. Number six, social value. This always comes up on tenders, well, most of the tenders, and especially for the public sector ones. And it's best to have some kind of examples of volunteering, fundraising, or social value that you've already delivered. Intended social value comes up almost always, so it's best to include real examples of volunteering, fundraising, or community projects you've delivered if you don't do anything now. Um, it's best to start and log and track everything that you do in terms of social value. Make sure you capture any amounts and specific numbers. So things like hours of volunteering, money donated, things like that. Social value is 9 times out of 10, it is a scored part of the tender. So you will get marked on it. So even small, well-documented activities can make a difference and give you those extra points. And social value can include things like recruiting apprentices, offering work placements, and environmental sustainability initiatives like picking litter. Number seven, carbon emissions reduction plan. This is coming up more and more in tenders now. It's a very hot topic with the government targets looming, so you may be asked for a carbon emissions reduction plan, and they will ask you to have one in place now. So it's best to prepare one now if you haven't got one already. You'll also need to start tracking and measuring emissions, um, document any reduction actions, and prepare a simple carbon reduction plan to attach with your bids. Make sure you track and log your actions and measure your carbon emissions before you start tendering. They will require some kind of evidence and policies, documents, reports. So make sure that you have something in place already because you don't want to be working on a tender where you're asked for a carbon reduction plan and you don't have one. You don't want that to stop you from applying for a tender because it is coming up more and more now. So remember, every tender is different and they will ask you for different things. Each tender will have its own unique requirements. The ones covered in this webinar are just the ones that I see come up the most often. But there will be other requirements that come up, and this also depends on the industry or sector that you're in. But this is just to give you a good starting point. Make sure you have these 7 things in place before you start tendering, and you can take the rest from there. At least you'll have a starting point, something to work with. And so if you need help with tendering, advice, creating a strategy for tendering, how to go about it, or help with applying for a tender, you can get in touch with me and I'll be happy to help.